Hey guys. So I want to start this video by saying that I used to hate being a human, and maybe you can also relate. It felt like my existence only served the capitalist machine, and like nothing mattered because everything is doomed. I'm here to tell you about how I shifted my perspective from apathetic dreadmonger to staunch optimist. Why? Because your perspective is your power, and our collective perspective, the relationship that we have with the outer world, becomes the world. If we want to change the world, we need to start with ourselves. So I want to start off by saying that there was a time in my early 20s when I felt completely numb to life. I felt nothing but apathy, unable to feel joy or even muster the energy for outrage. I felt like the world was doomed and I was a part of the problem. I felt shame for being a human being on this earth, a bystander and a participant to our home's destruction. I felt basically that there was no point to it all. I was working a job that I hated, spending my time doing meaningless design work, forced to monitor my time and account for every minute of a whopping 8.5 hours each day. That is one particular type of hell. It made me acutely aware of the cage I was trapped in. I couldn't understand how this had become the default for so many millions of people for so many years. I was struggling with anxiety and depression at the time, all the time, and I was missing the support that I needed. I was also missing a keystone piece of self-knowledge about my emotional intensity and neurodivergence, which would have changed everything for me if somebody had bothered to help me figure it out. But that's a different story. I still get a little bit touched by it because it's really kind of neglectful. Anyway, I had no idea how to manage my emotions, and I felt overwhelmed by the reality of life as an adult and what it seemed to mean. A doctor put me on SSRIs with no psychological support and with no clear understanding of my situation and internal landscape. It was all just anxiety, nebulous, ever-present anxiety, like a cloak of self-doubt, smothering my being. No going deep for the answer, just you have anxiety. Thanks, doctor, for your fucking professional opinion. I've since grown to understand that this is a symptom much more than it is a condition. There is something deeper going on that results in a feeling of being persistently threatened. There is a good chance that this is trauma or conditioning or traumatic conditioning. Maybe it's just the realization that how we're living is fundamentally wrong in so many, many ways. My numbness was a way for me to protect myself from feeling dread. Better nothing than existential dread. I just felt so trapped, like the life ahead of me was a prison sentence, chaining me to a desk in front of a computer, doing menial work for pennies. Awful, really, really awful. So, where am I at now? I have a job that I love. I'm able to embrace the full spectrum of my feelings. I'm able to create meaning from my challenges in a positive way. I don't feel like a victim of life. I regularly feel awe and wonder. I don't assume an outcome is inevitable. And I understand my own responsibility in creating the world that I want to live in. So what changed? There were a number of gradual and fundamental shifts that happened within me. Nothing happened overnight, and it's only easy for me to see the progress now, 10 years in. I would say that the first major thing, though, for me was the decision to go off the SSRIs. So when I was put on it, it helped me to normalize to a degree, but it also numbed me even further. Physically and emotionally, I could feel even less than before. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it. So I chose to wean myself off for after about 3 months. And I didn't go back to the doctor for this because my experience had taught me not to trust the doctor, because the doctor wasn't actually helpful to me and wasn't there for me. So I would advise maybe that if you've been on them for a long time, to not take this as medical advice, obviously. And, if you do want to go off them, you should definitely do it with your doctor. I was on it for a short enough time, and I did it very, very, very gradually, the weaning. It took about 6 months for me to wean myself off. But for me, it was worth it. Going on them and getting off them were both terrible experiences. Getting off was far worse and meant going through withdrawal. I had brain zaps, nausea, stomach issues, the whole lot. But I made the decision to take responsibility for my own state of being, and I could feel the numbness gradually leaving my being every day. When I was completely off them, I felt alive again for the first time in years. I had actual, real feelings again, like physical feelings and also just like emotional feelings. And it didn't matter that they weren't all good or pleasant or whatever. It just meant everything that they were there. So, maybe that doctor did help me after all in her own very abstract way. The other thing was changing my work situation. So one of the biggest decisions for me was deciding to leave my job. I saw that I could work as a freelancer if I'm willing to accept some risk. I decided it was worth it, and I could see a lot of other peers, I guess, going the same route, and it was really appealing to me. And you know what? I was super fortunate to land something very consistent almost immediately after I made this decision. And after I actually quit my job. I was basically immediately earning more money for less of my time, which just affirmed my decision so much. So these days I hardly freelance anymore. I work for a salary, earning money as a product designer for a startup. So the situation is night and day from where I started in this like miserable design studio job. So the difference in the conditions: one, I'm completely remote, which means I have the privilege of working in my own home or from wherever I choose. There's purpose and meaning behind what I do because it's meant to serve a wider community. I'm valued and trusted in my position and not held hostage by the hours and minutes I spend in front of the computer. And I entered into the situation with my own boundaries as a priority and condition of my employment. So this stuff, it didn't happen overnight. It was literally years of me prioritizing the conditions that I wanted that brought me here. There was a ton of risk involved, and I cannot ignore the help and support that I got from my parents, financially and emotionally. They really, really helped me out a lot. And not everyone has that support. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that privilege. So thank you. I couldn't have done it without you. Then having a crazy goal was something else that I think has really helped me. During COVID, I got more serious about my yoga practice. And to be honest, I was inspired by this trend called the zombie press, where people were pressing into a handstand from lying face down on the ground. I had never seen anything like it before, and it was just so cool. So do check it out if you aren't familiar with it. It's super impressive. It takes a lot of hard work to be able to do that, and a lot of persistence. Yeah, and it just got me really excited and inspired. Um, I did gymnastics as a kid. I actually even found my old scorecard, uh, like last week, from like kindergarten gymnastics, preschool gymnastics. And look, I really didn't progress very far in it. The most advanced thing I can do is a headstand, or could do. And maybe like a somersault, which I can't really do anymore. Anyway, so that type of body control has always just been really appealing to me. I suspect it's because I actually have trouble controlling my limbs a lot of the time, where they either feel over or under responsive. I always joke about not knowing my own strength, but it is actually literally true. Um, so I embarked on my journey with handstand, and it's been long. It's been very, very long. I still can't do the zombie press. I nearly said zombie press. But my handstand is totally within reach. I can pretty much do it now, albeit badly, but I can do it. I practice every day, and it feels more like playing, honestly. It's been an on and off journey, but yoga has always been there supporting me. And, this handstand isn't like directly related to my yoga. I practice them separately, but I mean, if you're familiar more deeply with yoga, you will know that handstand is absolutely a part of it. Anyway, I think the point I'm trying to get at is that I have this super lofty goal, which I think has really just kept me coming back. Because I understand inherently that to accomplish it will take time, lots and lots of time and lots of practice. I'm not going to just wake up suddenly able to do it unless I've been doing it and trying to do it every day for the last year or more. Yeah, so I think that the loftiness of the goal unconsciously shifted my focus from the goalpost to the practice. So the goal is just a distant point on the horizon, and it will change in time, because once I reach that goal, where to from there. But the practice, it's always going to be there, and it's something I return to again and again, and it shows me where I am, where I've come from, and what I'm capable of through diligent effort. Excuse me. It also just makes me feel good, and it builds my resilience when I commit to showing up, even when I don't feel like it. As soon as I start, the don't feel like it feeling vanishes, and yeah, I just have to show up, and then I remember why I love it so much. I think there's a bit of a mind trap there where it can feel like an obligation, but you gotta remember that when you've decided to do something because you love it, it's not really an obligation. It's a commitment to yourself, to give yourself that thing that feeds you, that like really, really feeds you. And it's just showing yourself that you're worth it, you're allowed to have that feeling, and you should have it, and it's worth cultivating within yourself. So please feed your passions. And then getting a cat, that was life-changing for me. I've always been a cat person. And having one of my own has added just tremendous meaning and infinite love into my daily life. He offers gentle connection and support and reassurance. His presence in my life has softened my hard edges so much. He can be needy and annoying, but so can I, so there's never any hard feelings. The total lack of judgment and the complete trust he shows me has healed so many wounds. We share a very, very deep bond. Someone once tried to tell me that cats don't love you back, and I will just say from my personal lived experience that this is completely false, not true. Cats and other animals reflect the care and the love that they're given, just like we do. Maybe for you it's not a cat, maybe it's your garden or your family. The value is the process of nurturing and caring for something beyond yourself. Then lastly, I will say that what really catalyzed the change in my perspective is reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. I cannot recommend this book enough, and really need to thank my mom for giving it to me. He's a gentle and compassionate person who had a moment of complete self-realization in the midst of a total existential crisis. I think he was in the middle of having a breakdown when he just could suddenly see clearly the landscape of his suffering, if I can put it that way. He described so much of what I've experienced throughout my life and put it in terms that made me feel that I have the power to change my experience through presence. I've delved pretty deeply into spiritual philosophy since then, and I really love it. I feel tremendous passion for it, and it makes me feel alive and connected and kind of magical. Yeah, so the biggest thing I've learned is the power of non-judgmental observation of self. So my thoughts, my reactions, my feelings, and my behaviors. When I can observe something happening within myself, and instead of judging myself, be curious about the observation, I open myself up to learning. This learning brings personal enlightenment. When we can see our patterns, we can break free of them. It emphasizes the importance of a positive attitude. If I can really see myself and have the perspective of learning, then nothing is ever a failure. Everything is a learning opportunity. Even if all I've learned is what's not working for me and what I don't want from life. It's important to understand that our chronic dissatisfaction is brought on by the constant seeking of sensation, either because we want it or we don't want it. If you feel something unpleasant, the natural desire is to remove it from your experience. Or conversely, you enjoy something, but maybe a little too much, and you can't help yourself but give into it. Leaning into this cycle is a misery trap because you're always left seeking or fleeing, moving away from what is in favor of what you wish for. But that's not living in reality. It's living in desire, and it keeps us from acting with purpose. Real purpose isn't a sensation. It's a deep and fundamental knowing. It's bound to be filled with hardship because purpose arises from our personal stories, the trials that have shaped our lives. When we really have purpose, we stick with it because it truly matters to us, not because it feels good. So, my final thoughts. Here I am now, 35, labeling myself as a staunch optimist. And what does that mean? At least, what does that mean to me? To me, it means that instead of assuming the worst, I'm here to learn from my experiences. I feel there is a false impression that some people are naturally positive and others are negative. This enforces the idea that having optimism is just looking at life through rose-tinted glasses and some type of denial. But I don't buy this outlook. Being an optimist is not easy. It's a deeply personal challenge to take what feels like a fucking dumpster fire and create meaningful experiences from it. It's a commitment to showing up in the world as the honest, best version of myself, because I honestly care about the state of the earth and all of her inhabitants, not just myself. I understand that my actions won't suddenly fix all of our problems, but what chance do we stand when we can't even face ourselves? I truly believe that the key to a better world lies within each of us. Compassion, humility, forgiveness, loving kindness are the values that I work to embody. Don't always succeed, especially in showing myself those things, but I'm committed to the practice. So how about you? What does the world that you want to live in look like? And what are you going to do to help make it? Thank you for watching. If you're still here, consider a like and a subscribe, please. Okay, thank you. Bye.